Hello again, friends. I have the pleasure of introducing you to Hannah Ramlo today. She opened the doors to Soulside Healing Arts in June of 2018 after graduating from Bradley University with a master's in nonprofit leadership. Beyond her basic certification in yoga, she has studied trauma-informed yoga, accessible yoga, and prenatal yoga. How many of you even know that existed? Okay, so you're going to learn something new today. Hannah has worked in nonprofits and as a freelance writer, spending time living in Chicago, Cincinnati, Venice, Italy, Ponzan. You can correct it later. I never go anywhere or do anything. I don't know. Poland before moving back home to Central Illinois. So please help me welcome today's speaker, Hannah.
Hello, thank you all so much. Thanks, Ashley, for inviting me, for bringing me out today. I'm really happy to be here. So my name's Hannah Ramlo. I'm the founder and director of Soulside Healing Arts. I wanted to start with something maybe you've seen around town, or maybe not, but maybe you will now that you've seen it here. This is our recent billboard project that Adams Outdoors was so generously funds a grant for nonprofits, so they helped us get this out and about around town. And the goal with our whole organization is just to get people to take a deep breath, to find some moments of calm in their day. So if we're going to have a billboard, we just want to make sure it allows drivers to calm down, take a breath, whether or not they go to our website or not. That's the goal with these. Soulside Healing Arts is a nonprofit yoga studio. I founded it in 2018, so we've been around almost 6 years. And we're down in the Warehouse District on Adams. Here's a map that shows right where we're at, right near the MacArthur Street Bridge, in the building next to C.T. Gabbert's building, if you're familiar with that building. So I think I have a picture of it. Yep, that's the building we're in. C.T. Gabbert's is just the one that you see beyond it. And this is an old picture, so there's been some changes in the neighborhood since then. Sous Chef has come in next door, a little local grocery store, and we're in the back of that building. But I want to go back here to our mission. So Soulside's mission is to decrease barriers to healing, health, and happiness by making holistic wellness practices accessible to all. And we do this in lots of different ways, yoga just being one of those ways. Skipping around a little bit here, but I want to talk what is holistic wellness. It's in our mission statement, making holistic wellness practices accessible to all. So what is holistic wellness? We look at it as care for the whole person. So physical, yes, but also mental, emotional, social, intellectual, and spiritual. And we do all kinds of things in the studio that address those. Where'd it go? Anyway. Let me see what else I skipped while I skipped around. One of the fragments of, or one of the pieces of holistic wellness I mentioned earlier is social or community. So this is a quote I really like from an organization called Art of Hosting that says, we're reweaving the fragments of community with positive collective experiences. So our goal is not just to provide yoga for you as an individual, so you as an individual feel better, but to do it as a group, in a group setting, to meet people we maybe wouldn't have met before in the studio space. When you go through these healing practices together and then you come back out of it and you smile at the person next to you, just like you're doing here as you gather in person in your luncheons. It can build different bridges. It can reweave fragments of community in different ways. This is inside our studio space. That's what it would look like as you come in set up for a class. But we host all kinds of things here. There's sound healing sessions where facilitators will use gongs or singing bowls to help calm the body. Different kinds of lectures on herbalism or book clubs that we've had on different wellness-based books. So as I mentioned, we work in our studio space, which is in the Warehouse District, and all of those classes we offer in our studio are donation-based or pay as you can, so people can come donate whatever they want for class, whatever makes sense with their income. We leave that up to the individuals coming. We say market rate for yoga is $15. If you can pay that, great. If not, come donate whatever you can. We're still going to be there leading class. We'd love to have you join us. We work in community spaces, so we have a team of trauma-informed teachers who bring these practices into schools, into social service agencies, into community organizations, practices ranging from just breath awareness or meditation or different mindfulness tools. We're going to do some of those after I talk a little bit more about Soulside, to full yoga classes. And then we're also in some workplaces. So our workplace, our corporate partners help fund all this other stuff we're doing in community spaces. We've been in SEFCU for a few months now, leading classes in their wellness center. Samantle, the ad agency downtown. Zion Coffee has us come every week or every month for their employees. So we love to connect with all different corporations who can kind of pay that market rate price to help us do what we're doing in community spaces. We also have a virtual library on our website. During the pandemic, when we had to close down, we recorded over 40 videos with our team of teachers, so people can download those at a sliding scale rate and do yoga from home if they're not sure they want to come into the studio. They can still support us, support local teachers, but do that practice in their own comfortable space. And then we recently launched a community doula program. So we are creating this network of birth doulas and postpartum doulas, which is a birth support professional for individuals and families giving birth, that we will match with clients. Just like our yoga program, it's sliding scale, donation based, and grant and donation funded, so that we can get more people that support service as they're going through their birth. As I mentioned, Pay What You Can is a system where students get to choose what they want to pay with consideration for their income. So no one avoids these practices based on a price tag. And a market rate, as I said, was around $15 per class here in Peoria. So we ask people to pay that if they're able, but we don't ask any questions. We don't require any proof of income. We just want people in the door if they want to be there. And then trauma-informed yoga is a really important piece of what we do. So trauma-informed yoga recognizes that these practices can be really vulnerable for a lot of people. We all sort of have this preconceived idea of what yoga is. We might have it in our heads that you have to have a certain body type or flexibility level or be of a certain age. We're really trying to break down those barriers to these practices and make sure people know it's for everybody. We're emphasizing autonomy and choice when you're in those classes. You don't have to raise your hands, but I would love you to just think, maybe if you've ever been to a yoga class or a gym setting or a group fitness setting and left feeling more frustrated, like you maybe couldn't keep up, or maybe you pushed yourself harder than you really meant to. We're trying to avoid that. We're trying to avoid that in our yoga classes. So those feelings of inadequacy or powerlessness or shame that come up in these practices, we're aware that they're there. So it takes a trauma-informed teacher to make sure students feel that they are making choices that are good for their bodies, and not just kind of saying this is the way it has to be done or this is the way it has to look. We're using invitational language to do that. And this last bullet point is really important. We're recognizing that 89% of adults have experienced a traumatic event. That's most people, right? So we're not teaching like trauma-informed classes to just specific groups of people. We're teaching trauma-informed classes to everybody, because we recognize that no matter where we're teaching and who's in our group, probably some of the people there have experienced some trauma, and doing these things, sitting in stillness with yourself, going inwards can bring some of that trauma back up, and we need to be careful. We need to be safe about how we approach that. So I keep this in my slides no matter what group I'm talking to. If any of this is interesting to you, you're welcome to attend classes. And when people ask, how can we help? That's the first thing I say is just try it out. Come down, try it out. Try something online on our studio. So you really know what it is, what we're doing, and you can really have those experiences for yourself to be able to talk about it with others. Bringing Soulside teachers to your work groups, your community organizations, as you did today. Thank you. And we'll take a check too if your heart's set on that. And here are just a few pictures of groups in our studio. This was from Commonplace, which is closed down now, but we had been teaching there for 3 years with groups. So they would come take a field trip to the studio. This is at Holt Health Center. We did a chair class. We did lots and lots of chair classes for older adults. This is one of the kids' classes on the right and just a regular studio class there on the left. That left picture is from a summer camp with Holt Health Center that we did with some kids. And then this one on the right is a recent class with Big Brothers, Big Sisters. Okay, so I'm going to get into this not so fun list real quick, but these are some symptoms of traumatic events. So as I mentioned, this, and as this presentation is titled, How Our Body Stores Trauma. And as I mentioned before, we're working through movement to process some of these traumas. So having some of these symptoms does not necessarily mean you've experienced a traumatic event. It's not the only way to get here, but this is really ubiquitous. This is a ubiquitous list. We all know somebody who's here, or we are ourselves somewhere on this list, because we live in a world where trauma is a big umbrella term that a lot of things fit under, but even scrolling through the news, looking through our Instagram, being on social media, we're seeing trauma every single day. So whether we're experiencing it ourselves or we're experiencing it vicariously, it's living on in our bodies. This is just to show that when we've experienced trauma, things change in our brain. So that list we just saw, it's because of the structures that are changing in our brain. Our brain is neuroplastic. So when we have experiences, different structures in our brain shift and change. And these are from brain scans of people that have experienced traumatic events. So we lose some of our rational thinking skills. Our memory center, our hippocampus, becomes dysregulated. So it's difficult for us to place memories in the past or in the present. We might start feeling like something's happening now in the present that was actually in the past. That happens very often with PTSD. Our amygdala is our fear center in the middle of our brain, and that becomes dysregulated. So we're less able to figure out what is a threat and what is not a threat. So all these things are happening in the brain, resulting in that list we just saw. And I just share that to normalize it. It's not anyone's fault. It's our brain changing. And if our brain changed one way, it can change back to be healthy again. So this isn't a lost cause. With some of these practices of mindfulness and meditation and breath and movement, we can process through some of these things and change our brain back to being more functional. So somatic experience is what we call body-based experience, or a bottom-up approach, understanding the world around us as being felt sense first. Our body feels and then we think. This is different from what we typically think of a top-down approach, thinking our mind thinks and then our body reacts to what our mind thinks. What we know in somatic experience and a bottom-up approach is that trauma memories are stored in the body. So anytime we experience a traumatic event, our body might be sent into fight or flight. It's flooded with hormones to help us survive that event, and then we survive. We got here. But our body is going to keep doing that fight or flight cycle until we've felt safe again in our bodies. So it takes healing in the body to overcome some of the stress response cycles of traumatic experience. Body-based practices help us regain that sense of safety. So knowledge that we're safe now in the present moment, as Julie talked about earlier, the present moment is so important in somatic practices because so often those memories are coming in from the past. We have to feel our bodies to feel that we're safe in the present moment. In somatic practice, we work with sensations, physical sensations, to notice and name some of the symptoms we saw on that previous list. So starting with physical sensations. How do I feel sitting in my seat? How does my back feel against my seat? Can I feel my feet against the ground? Can I feel my breath fill my lungs? This is going to bring us back from the spiraling thoughts around us. Emphasizing it again, focus on the present moment, placing the past in the past where it belongs. So that top-down approach, that logic-first approach, that thinking approach, isn't going to be as effective if our brain is dysregulated. So some of our thinking centers and our language centers are dysregulated. How effective is talk therapy going to be? We can tell a story all day long, but until we get into our bodies and feel it again and regain a sense of safety and then speak from there, it's just emphasizing that whole body approach. So I think talk therapy is great. There's definitely a place for it. And more therapists are understanding the somatic approach within their therapy practice. But it's just talking about why both are needed. Can't see that whole bullet, but it's saying breath and movement are just one way into these practices. It might be that you really like running, that you like some other kind of mindful meditation practice or movement practice. It's just about being mindful with it, staying present with it, and staying with your bodily sensations. The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk is a really great book on this topic if you're interested in learning more. He writes that the goal of treatment of PTSD, and I would say of treating trauma in general, is to help people live in the present without feeling or behaving according to irrelevant demands belonging in the past. So we're going to put it into practice just a little bit. It's not much. I'm going to ask you to do a couple things here. These are just a few tools we can do to regulate the nervous system, place ourselves in the present moment when we start to feel those spiraling thoughts or that tunnel vision or whatever you know as your symptoms of sort of stress or anxiety or perhaps reliving something that was traumatic. Centering eye gaze is exactly as it sounds. I'm going to ask you to just sit up nice and tall and comfortable in your chairs and look up to the ceiling. Really widen your eyes and take in what you see, and then look to the left and do that as you go. So you might see a smiling face, that's fine. Look to the left. It's not about stretching, it's about looking. So see what you see. Notice where the windows are. Notice what colors you see, the tone of the light. Look to the right. Do the same thing. Look down to the ground or your seat or your hands or your feet. Look behind you, maybe both directions. And then come back to center. Just widen your eyes a little bit. Feel like you're centered in your environment. You know what's around you. This is a great thing to do as you walk into a new space, a new room, as you sit down at a table with new people. If you're feeling your heart race, doing that practice, nobody has to know you're doing it. You're just getting a feel for all that's around you so you can center yourself in your circumstance, in your situation. Hand to heart is exactly as it sounds. Take one hand and place it right on your heart. You can close your eyes here if you'd like. You might feel your heartbeat. You might feel the warmth of your palm. You might just give it a little rub. So this is a really great tool for nervous system regulation for scientific reasons that I won't get into, but it involves the vagus nerve, the longest cranial nerve that goes down the body and touches the heart, touches the digestive system and lungs. So you could also take one hand to your belly here. And that warmth, that human touch, that little compassionate touch from yourself to yourself can just be a really regulating tool. Take a big breath with one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly, through your nose. Don't be afraid of the sound of your breath as you breathe in, and sigh it out through your mouth. And do that one more time. Big breath through your nose. Feel your inhales moving towards your palms. And exhale, sigh it out. And then let your hands come back down and just notice what's different. All right, so infinity breath is a 4-part breath practice. I'll explain it first and then we'll try it all together. We breathe in through the nose and then we breathe out through the mouth. And then we breathe in through the mouth like you're breathing through a straw and then out through your nose. So before we do that all together, it doesn't have to be forceful. It should be relaxed, your natural style and rhythm of breathing. So we don't want to like overdo it. Sometimes breath practices can trigger anxiety because we're holding breath or we're breathing faster. So calm, relaxed breath with this 4-part series. Breathe everything out all together. Breathe in through your nose. out through your mouth, in through a straw, out through your nose. Let's do it again. In through your nose, out through your mouth, in through a straw, and out through your nose. You can keep going if you'd like, you can release it, but just that 4-part breath 1, 2, 3 times can bring you back to your body, sensation of your breath. Shaking is, all of these are what they sound like. So shake your hands out a little bit. Shaking is a ancient practice in lots of cultures, very sacred practice. We can go ahead and stop. Sometimes there will be like a shaman who will invoke shaking to try to heal some mental health issues or traumas that people are experiencing. It's a way to move that hormone torrent through the body when you're experiencing those fight or flight symptoms. When we have a traumatic event, sometimes our bodies automatically shake. You can think of like after a car accident or something like that, and you're shaking. And our cultural response is to try to stop. We want to like hold ourselves still or hold our friends still if they're shaking. And so this is just an invitation to honor that shake and to let it happen, and maybe even start the shake sometimes when you feel like there's pent up energy. So you can play some music, dance around, shake, whatever, but it's, like really move through your body. I'm not going to make you do it. Shake your feet, stand up, shake your arms. Cool the soup is a breath practice, a way to remember this breath practice. So as if you're holding a bowl of soup, let's go ahead and pretend you're holding a bowl of soup. Breathe in through your nose, and then as you exhale, cool your soup. So let your hands fall down and do that again with just your breath. Anytime we invoke a longer exhale than an inhale, we're stepping into our parasympathetic nervous system, our rest and digest. So that's a good way to just have a longer exhale practice, exhale, than your inhale breath. And similarly, this is a counted breath that helps us do that. So we breathe in for 4, we hold for 7, so it's full lungs, suspension of breath for 7, and then slow exhale for 8, just like our cool the soup exhale. So if you'd like to try that one with me, go ahead and let all your air out, and then breathe in for 4, 3, 2, 1, hold for 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, exhale for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. You can do that as many times as needed. You can change those numbers. It could be 4, 5, 6, if that's easier to remember. You just want to hold longer than you inhale and exhale longer than you hold. Yeah, okay. I think that's all I brought for you today. Thanks for playing along with me. I hope you can remember one of those things and take it with you that felt like it was calming for you. I'm happy to take any questions if you have any. And yeah, thank you again for having me out.
Hannah, hi, thanks for being here. Andy Thornton with the YMCA. It sounds like you have, your presentation, and you have a very charitable mindset and mission. Are you guys incorporated as a 501c3 or some other charity?
We are, yes, 501c3.
Awesome. I saw on your website your strategic plan and bylaws and that, but I didn't see that on there, so that's why I was curious. And I'd like to talk to you a little bit about an idea that I have.
Absolutely. And while we're at it, I want to introduce our board treasurer who's here with me, Dee Walker, today. She is a retired CAT accountant who helps us out a ton with accounting. So thanks for coming.
Met Andy through Impact Central Illinois as well.
You know where I'm going.
Yep. I do.
So, 1, 2, thank you for being with us today. Did I hear that you lived in Venice? And if so, how do we sign up for that?
Yes, I did live in Venice for 6 months and Poznan, Poland for 6 months. I was traveling with my boyfriend at the time who was doing a master's program that took him to those places. I was a freelance writer, so I came along and wrote from my stations. Unrelated to yoga practice. Sorry, I can't help you with that.